In the headlines, mourning and outrage. 5 journalists killed in a deadly Israeli airstrike on Nasser hospital. The media community in Gaza is left reeling as the conflict rages on. From border battles to border bonds, Cambodia and Thailand are teaming up to keep the peace. Is this the start of a new era in regional security? Duterte's next stop, with the ICC eyeing his interim release. At least one European nation is ready to take him in. The big question, which country will open its doors? Presidential punchline or political jab? Donald Trump had some fun at the White House, teasing South Korea's leader about China and Kim Jong-un. Nearly $500 million worth of cocaine seized. The U.S. Coast Guard pulls off the biggest drug bust in history. The numbers will blow you away. Dinner in Destiny. SpaceX just sent another Dragon to the ISS, but this mission is about more than supplies. Could it be the road to the moon and even Mars? Bella's back on beat. Brittany Snow, Anna Kendrick, and Rebel Wilson drop hints at a possible pitch-perfect reunion, sparking buzz for a 4th movie. And stunner at St. James Park, Liverpool steals victory in stoppage time. But all eyes are on Newcastle's Alexander Isak with a 110 million European bid and days left in the window. His future hangs in the balance. I'm Franco Baranda. Newsline World starts now. Former President Rodrigo Duterte may soon have a temporary home outside the Philippines. His legal team confirms that at least one country is willing to host him if the International Criminal Court grants his request for interim release. But the big question is, the nation will open its doors. Let's find out in MJ Mondejar's report.
The legal team of former President Rodrigo Duterte confirmed that one country is ready to accept the former chief executive of the Philippines. This is in connection with Duterte's request for interim release while his case is being heard before the International Criminal Court or ICC. This was highlighted in the latest ICC motion filed by his legal team, where they outlined the reasons why provisional release should be granted. But the question remains, where could the former president possibly stay? According to international law expert attorney Harry Roque, 3 countries under the European Union could potentially serve as host nations.
At dahil si BP Sara ay narito ngayon galing sa Paris, hindi ko ma-erase yung possibility na nakikipag-usap din siya sa authorities sa Belgium. Bakit? Kasi ang Belgium po, naku, ang dami na pong tinanggap na mga akusado na nabigyan ng interim release.
Roque clarified that he has no knowledge of the itinerary of Vice President Sara Duterte, who is now currently at the ICC in The Hague. But considering the proximity between Netherlands and Belgium, it could be strategic to establish communication there.
In fact, ang pinakamaraming ang bansa na tumanggap ng pinakamaraming akusado, hindi lang po sa ICC, kundi sa ICTY at saka sa yung Yugoslav at Rwanda Tribunal, ay ang bansang Belgium.
It is only about an hour and a half drive by car from Belgium to the Netherlands. According to Roque, aside from the 2 countries, France is also among the top 3 countries that accept ICC indictees. The former palace spokesman clarified that his forecast was based on previous ICC decisions and rulings of other international tribunals. The lawyer also admitted that the matter of which country may host Duterte's interim release remains top secret.
Top secret talaga kung sino yung posibleng magbigay ng interim release, tumanggap ng interim release si Tatay Digong dahil alam naman ng mga kalaban natin, yung mga komunistang CPP-NPA na napakalakas dito sa Netherlands.
It can be recalled that Filipinos visit the ICC detention center daily to show their support to former President Duterte, a scenario that could also happen in whichever country he may stay if the interim release is granted. For Ganamabal of Philippines, MJ Mondejar, SMNI News.
The United States Coast Guard is touting a major victory in the fight against drug trafficking, one that officials say sets a new record. Let's hear more in this report from Paul Montibon.
a record-breaking drug bust for the U.S. Coast Guard. On Monday, crews offloaded more than 34,000 kilos of cocaine, that's 75,000 pounds, at Port Everglades in Florida. Officials say it's the largest cocaine offload in the Coast Guard history, with an estimated street value of nearly $473 million. The haul came from multiple seizures during counter-narcotics patrols in the Eastern Pacific Ocean and Caribbean Sea, part of ongoing operations with partner agencies. The Coast Guard says its crews are routinely deployed south of the U.S. to disrupt drug trafficking networks moving narcotics by sea. The operation also comes as the U.S. expands its military presence near Venezuela, accusing President Nicolas Maduro without presenting evidence of ties to drug cartels. Caracas has fired back, with Maduro calling on the Bolivarian militia to mobilize, and more than 10,000 Venezuelan troops now deployed nationwide. The high-stakes crackdown underscores America's deepening drug crisis. Last year alone, about 80,000 Americans died from overdoses, most linked to synthetic opioids, making it one of the nation's leading causes of preventable deaths. Authorities say the fight against trafficking at sea is critical, but the challenge on land remains just as urgent. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Paul Monteban, SMNA News.
China is urging deeper cooperation with South Korea, calling for stronger ties not just in diplomacy, but also in trade and global governance. At the same time, Seoul says it is committed to building on past agreements to keep the relationship moving forward. Kim Song has the news.
Earlier this week, China and South Korea held high-level talks in Beijing. Now both sides are pledging closer ties. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi met with South Korea's Special Envoy Park Byung-suk. Wang recalled that soon after the new South Korean government took office, President Xi Jinping spoke with President Lee Jae-myung by phone. Both leaders agreed to strengthen their strategic partnership and take it to a higher level. Wang said China's policy towards Seoul remains steady and consistent. He called on both nations to deepen cooperation, expand common ground, and properly handle sensitive issues to keep relations on the right track. He also urged South Korea to join China in safeguarding free trade, opposing protectionism, and strengthening multilateralism through the United Nations. This year, Wang also noted, marks 80 years since the victory in the World War II and the liberation of the Korean Peninsula. A reminder, he said, of the need to defend international fairness and justice. For his part, Park stressed that the new South Korean government values its ties with Beijing and is ready to follow through on the commitments made by their leaders. Both sides say the renewed partnership will help ensure stability and cooperation in the region. This is Kim Sung, your global citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Madalas ka bang napapasobra sa pag-scroll sa phone mo kahit puro masasamang balita ang nakikita mo? Isipin mo ito. Nakahiga ka na sa kama, nagche-check lang ng phone bago matulog. Tapos, hindi mo na malayan, ilang oras ka na palang nagbabasa at nanonood ng mga balita tungkol sa digmaan, sakuna, politika, at lahat ng masasamang nangyayari sa mundo. Nakakaramdam ka na ng kaba at pagod, pero tuloy mo pa rin ang scroll mo. Ang tawag dyan ay doom scrolling. Ito ang habit ng paulit-ulit na pagtingin sa mga negatibo o nakaka-depress na content tulad ng digmaan, krimen o problema sa mundo. Nakaka-stress pero hindi mo pa rin mapigilan. Ayon sa isang pag-aaral ng Texas Tech University, ang sobrang konsumo ng masasamang balita ay nauugnay sa pagtaas ng stress, anxiety at pisikal na sintomas gaya ng pagkapagod at sakit ng ulo. Ayon naman sa Harvard Health, ang doom scrolling ay nagpapataas ng fight or flight hormones tulad ng cortisol at adrenaline. na nakakapagpabigat ng isip at katawan. Nakakaapekto ito sa iyong mood, tulog at maging sa mental at physical health mo. At kapag naman puro memes at random na content ang pinapanood mo ng sunod-sunod hanggang sa mawalan ka na ng gana na mag-isip at gumawa ng iba pang gawain, ang tawag naman dyan ay brain rot. Sa Gen Z at tinatawag na internet culture, ang brain rot ay overconsumption o sobrang tagal na panonood ng paulit-ulit, mababaw, magulo o walang saysay na content online hanggang sa parang manhid na ang utak mo. Kapag nasobrahan, syempre, nakakasama. Nawawalan ka na ng focus, nawawala ang motivation, hirap mag-isip ng malalim, parang lutang o foggy ang utak. Masaya sa simula, pero kapag sobra, napapagod ang isip mo. Nahihirapang mag-concentrate at parang lutang. Mas delikado pa ito sa mga bata dahil ang utak nila ay nasa proseso pa ng pag-develop. Kaya mas malakas ang epekto ng doom scrolling at brain rot sa kanila. Maaaring makaapekto sa pag-aaral, pag-iisip at pakikitungo sa iba. Ang higit sa 4 na oras ng screen time araw-araw sa mga kabataan ay konektado sa 35 to 88% na mas mataas na posibilidad ng depresyon, anxiety at stress. Base ito sa isang malawakang pag-aaral sa Brazil. Kaya, maging balanse. Magpahinga sa screen, magbasa, makipagkwentuhan, magdasal, maging present lagi. Alagaan ang iyong isipan. Kung anong itinatanim sa isipan mo, yun ang lalago.
Hoy, magnanakaw! Tingin! Pulis ka!
Hala, magnanakaw!
Magnanakaw! Magnanakaw!
Hoy, magnanakaw!
Magnanakaw! Magnanakaw!
Ano kayang gagawin ko? Ipamimigay ko yung konti para tumigil sila sa pag-iingay.
Pare, magnanakaw, namimigay ng pera.
Ito ang sayo.
Wow! Ang bait ng magnanakaw!
Ito naman sayo.
Kuya, yung
eto
share ko!
Huwag ka nang maingay. Eto pa. Tama na yan. Nakikipalato lang kayo eh. Huwag nang maingay. Di ba? Konti lang pinamigay ko, mabait na ako. Tahimik na sila. Easy. Ngayon, pwede ko na tong suluhin.
Masaya ang mga tao, pero tama po ba ito? Di po ba ang nakikinabang sa magnanakaw ay kasabwat ng magnanakaw?
Ikaw, kinukonsenti mo ba ang legal na korupsyon?
In 2005, Pastor Apollo C. Kibuloy founded the Sunshine Philippines movement. A mission rooted in love for nature and nation. It began as an environmental and humanitarian initiative to reforest Mount Apo. Once barren, now a thriving and beautiful place. Through his initiative, thousands of trees have been planted across the Philippines, bringing life and hope to communities. His advocacy, One Tree, One Nation, is also a movement that calls for unity in preserving the environment. Because every tree planted is a step towards unity, healing, and a greater future. Join One Tree, One Nation.
Ikaw ba ay namomroblema sa taas ng electric bill buwan-buwan? Huwag mag-alala, narito ang ilang paraan upang makatipid sa kuryente. Patayin ang mga ilaw at appliances kapag hindi ginagamit. Sa halip ay gumamit ng natural na liwanag upang makatipid sa kuryente. Tanggalin sa saksakan ang mga appliances kung hindi ginagamit. Iwasan ang paggamit ng maraming appliances ng sabay-sabay. Gumamit ng LED bulbs. Ito ay mas tipid sa kuryente kumpara sa mga incandescent at fluorescent bulbs. Regular na linisin ang mga appliances tulad ng electric fan, aircon vents at refrigerator. Magkaroon ng takdang araw sa isang linggo sa pamamalansya at paglalaba. Gumamit ng energy-efficient appliances. Tandaan, maging wais sa paggamit ng kuryente upang makatipid para mas gumaan ang buhay. Ang paalalang ito ay hatid sa inyo ng SMNI.
Maging ligtas, maging handa. Narito ang ilang paalala kung sakaling tumama ang lindol. Maghanda ng emergency kits na may lamang flashlight, pito, first aid kit, tubig at pagkain. Alamin ang emergency exits sa inyong bahay, paaralan o opisina. Habang lumilindol, magtago sa ilalim ng matibay na lamesa upang maprotektahan ang sarili sa mga nahuhulog na bagay. Lumayo sa mga bintana at mabibigat na gamit na maaring mahulog. Kung ikaw ay nasa labas, lumayo sa mga gusali, puno o poste na maaaring matumba. Kung ikaw ay nagmamaneho, itabi at ihinto ang sasakyan at lumabas. Pagkatapos ng lindol, gamitin ang hagdan sa paglabas ng gusali at huwag gumamit ng elevator. Maging alerto sa aftershocks at manatili sa open space kung kinakailangan. Maging ligtas at maging handa sa anumang sakuna. Ang paalalang ito ay hatid sa inyo ng SMNI.
Back to the news, U.S. President Donald Trump jokingly asked South Korean President Lee Jae-myung if he'd like to come to China with Trump as they took questions in the White House on Monday.
President Xi would like me to come to China. Well, maybe we'll go together. Do you want to go together? We can share a plane. We'll save energy. We'll save.
Meanwhile, still at the White House on Monday, Trump stirred laughter when he jokingly asked the visiting South Korean president if he'd like a meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. The quip came after a reporter asked whether Trump planned to meet Kim Jong-un again, or maybe Xi Jinping in the near future, a question that briefly appeared to confuse him. Turning to his guest, Trump said,
You mean set them up together?
Yes.
That'd be interesting. We'll arrange a meeting between you and Kim Jong-un. Would you like that? That's a very tough question right now. I don't know where that question is leading.
Meanwhile, Trump speaks warmly if Kim Jong-un and says he'd like to have a meeting with the North Korean leader.
Kim Jong-un wants to meet. When do you want to meet with him?
With who?
You said the North Korean leader wants to meet. How soon would you?
Yeah, we want to have a meeting. I'd like to have a meeting. I got along great with him. You know, you were there. We even had a press conference. He had his first press conference. Kim Jong-un had a press conference. This was a little different press conference. I said, have you done a press conference before? No. And you know what? He did great. It was a great press conference, actually. It was historic. I doubt he's done one since. But I said, would you like to meet the fake news? Because whatever you want to do. And they came in like you've never seen anything like it. And then he said, enough. And that was the end of the press conference. That was the end. It ended very rapidly. But I think he had a good time. I look forward to meeting with Kim Jong-un in the appropriate future.
Meanwhile, Palestinians in Khan Yunis gathered on Monday to mourn 5 journalists killed in an Israeli airstrike that struck the Nasser medical complex. Almar Farsuelo gives us the details.
Funeral prayers were held as crowds carried the journalists' bodies through the streets, chanting, According to the Palestinian Minister of Health in Gaza, the strike claimed at least 20 lives, including medical staff, patients, journalists, and civil defense personnel. The government media office identified the victims as Hussam al-Masri, Mohamed Salama, Mariam Abu Daka, and Muath Abu Taha. A 5th journalist, Ahmed Abu Aziz, later died of his injuries. Officials say the latest incident raises the number of journalists killed in Gaza since October 7 to 244. The Israeli military confirmed it had targeted the vicinity of the hospital in Khan Yunis and said the chief of staff had ordered an immediate preliminary investigation into the strike. The war began on October 7, 2023 after Hamas launched attacks that killed more than 1,000 people in Israel, mostly civilians, and took more than 200 hostages. Israel's military response in Gaza has since killed at least 62,000 Palestinians and injured more than 158,000 others as of publication. Reporting for Newsline World, Almar Forzuelo, SMNA News.
And this was the statement released by the Israel Defense Forces on the airstrike conducted near the Nasser medical complex. Let's watch this.
Earlier today, IDF troops carried out a strike in the area of Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis. We are aware of reports that harm was caused to civilians, including journalists. I would like to be clear from the start. The IDF does not intentionally target civilians. The IDF makes every effort to mitigate harm to civilians while ensuring the safety of our troops. Any incident that raises concern in this regard is addressed by the relevant mechanisms in the IDF. We are operating in an extremely complex reality. Hamas terrorists deliberately use civilian infrastructure, including hospitals, as shields. They have even operated from the Nasser hospital itself. Hamas began this war, created impossible fighting conditions, and is preventing its end by still holding 50 of our hostages. Having said that, as a professional military committed to international law, we are obligated to investigate our operations thoroughly and professionally. The Chief of the General Staff has instructed that an inquiry be conducted immediately to understand the circumstances of what happened and how it happened. Reporting from an active war zone carries immense risk, especially in a war with a terrorist organization such as Hamas, who cynically hides behind the civilian population. As always, we will present our findings as transparently as possible. We regret any harm to uninvolved individuals and are committed to continue fighting Hamas while taking all the necessary precautions.
From border clashes to cross-border crime, Cambodia and Thailand have faced their share of disputes. Now, both nations are taking steps to keep the peace and strengthen coordination. Anissa de Guzman tells us more from Bangkok, Thailand.
Cambodia and Thailand have agreed on new measures to improve coordination along their shared border, aiming to prevent clashes, boost communication, and tackle cross-border issues. The agreement was reached during an extraordinary regional border committee meeting hosted by Cambodia on Monday, August 25. Lieutenant General Isak Saga, commander of the Cambodian 5th Military Region, led his country's delegation, while Thailand was represented by Vice Admiral Apichat Sapaset, commander of the Chantaburi Entrat Border Defense Command. Both sides reaffirmed their commitment to implement agreements made earlier this month between Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Manet and Thai Acting and Prime Minister Phamtam Wichayachai in Putrajaya, Malaysia. At the meeting, the two countries agreed to establish a coordinating group to ensure regular communication between military commanders, liaison groups, standing border forces, and operational units. Officials said the group's purpose is to resolve problems peacefully and avoid clashes. Officials said the group's purpose is to resolve problems peacefully and avoid clashes. The possibility of forming a township border committee was also discussed. The committee would include both state and private institutions to deepen cooperation. Until these bodies are created, local task force commanders from both nations will continue to meet weekly or as needed to manage issues in their respective areas of responsibility. Both Cambodia and Thailand also renewed their commitment to humanitarian demining and agreed to bring the matter to the upcoming General Border Committee meeting. In addition, they pledged closer cooperation in fighting transnational crimes such as online scams, drug and human trafficking, and weapons smuggling. The meeting ended with both delegations stressing their determination to restore normalcy at the border and to promote peace, stability, and prosperity. They also confirmed that the next Regional Border Committee meeting will take place within a month, with Thailand set to host. I'm Anissa de Guzman, your Global Citizen Correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Southern China's resort city of Sanya came to a standstill as Typhoon Kajiki tore through on Monday, toppling trees, cutting power, and forcing daily life to a halt. Residents struggled to move through blocked streets, with some clearing debris themselves. Power outages left neighborhoods in darkness for hours. Authorities raised a red alert, the highest level of warning, shutting down public transport, schools, businesses, tourist sites, and construction across the country. Forecasters say the storm will move past Hainan Island before making landfall in Vietnam. Officials there are preparing to evacuate more than 500,000 people and have ordered all fishing vessels to remain on shore. The storm adds to a summer of extreme weather across China. In July alone, disaster cost more than 52 billion yuan in damage, over $7 billion, and left about 300 people dead or missing. 9 people, including 2 children, were killed and 42 others injured when a truck container crashed into a tractor trolley carrying pilgrims in Bulandashar, Uttar Pradesh, early Monday. The tractor trolley, which was transporting around 60 worshippers from Rafatpur village to Jarirpir in Rajasthan, had stopped by the roadside when it was struck from behind at about 2 a.m. local time. The force of the coalition overturned the tractor, crushing many of the passengers. Footage from the scene showed the wreckage of both vehicles, bloodstains on the tractor, and victims receiving urgent treatment outside Kailash Hospital. Inside, relatives waited anxiously for updates on their loved ones. Authorities confirmed that an investigation into the crash is underway. Hezbollah is pushing back against calls to disarm, with its Secretary General warning that giving up weapons could weaken Lebanon and serve foreign interests. Sara Santos, give us more details.
Speaking at a memorial service in Beirut on Monday, Naim Qassem criticized the government's recent disarmament push. He said the United States supplies the Lebanese army with weapons they are not allowed to use against Israel, while limiting tools needed to defend Lebanon. Qassem added that Israel must first withdraw from Lebanese territory, release prisoners, and stop attacks before any discussion of disarmament can move forward. He also urged the Lebanese government to resist foreign pressure, saying it is more honorable to admit limits than to promise action that cannot be carried out. Qassem outlined a roadmap for Lebanon: expel the enemy, halt aggression, secure prisoners, and begin reconstruction. He pledged Hezbollah's support to the government if it acts boldly to defend the country's sovereignty. Earlier this month, the Lebanese cabinet approved a U.S.-backed plan calling for Israeli withdrawal from southern Lebanon, deployment of the Lebanese army along the border, and the disarmament of groups including Hezbollah. President Joseph Aoun has also urged all armed factions to hand over their weapons. In response, Qassem warned that anyone demanding Hezbollah's weapons is serving the Israeli project. Reporting, Sara Santos, SMNI News.
Madalas ka bang napapasobra sa pag-scroll sa phone mo kahit puro masasamang balita ang nakikita mo? Isipin mo ito. Nakahiga ka na sa kama, nagche-check lang ng phone bago matulog. Tapos, hindi mo na malayan, ilang oras ka na palang nagbabasa at nanonood ng mga balita tungkol sa digmaan, sakuna, politika, at lahat ng masasamang nangyayari sa mundo. Nakakaramdam ka na ng kaba at pagod, pero tuloy mo pa rin ang scroll mo. Ang tawag dyan ay doom scrolling. Ito ang habit ng paulit-ulit na pagtingin sa mga negatibo o nakaka-depress na content tulad ng digmaan, krimen o problema sa mundo. Nakaka-stress pero hindi mo pa rin mapigilan. Ayon sa isang pag-aaral ng Texas Tech University, ang sobrang konsumo ng masasamang balita ay nauugnay sa pagtaas ng stress, anxiety at pisikal na sintomas gaya ng pagkapagod at sakit ng ulo. Ayon naman sa Harvard Health, Ang doom scrolling ay nagpapataas ng fight or flight hormones tulad ng cortisol at adrenaline na nakakapagpabigat ng isip at katawan. Nakakaapekto ito sa iyong mood, tulog at maging sa mental at physical health mo. At kapag naman puro memes at random na content ang pinapanood mo ng sunod-sunod hanggang sa mawalan ka na ng gana na mag-isip at gumawa ng iba pang gawain, ang tawag naman dyan ay brain rot. Sa Gen Z at tinatawag na internet culture, ang brain rot ay overconsumption o sobrang tagal na panonood ng paulit-ulit, mababaw, magulo o walang saysay na content online hanggang sa parang manhid na ang utak mo. Kapag nasobrahan, syempre, nakakasama. Nawawalan ka na ng focus, nawawala ang motivation, hirap mag-isip ng malalim, parang lutang o foggy ang utak. Masaya sa simula, pero kapag sobra, napapagod ang isip mo. Nahihirapang mag-concentrate at parang lutang. Mas delikado pa ito sa mga bata dahil ang utak nila ay nasa proseso pa ng pag-develop. Kaya mas malakas ang epekto ng doom scrolling at brain rot sa kanila. Maaaring makaapekto sa pag-aaral, pag-iisip at pakikitungo sa iba. Ang higit sa 4 na oras ng screen time araw-araw sa mga kabataan ay konektado sa 35 to 88% na mas mataas na posibilidad ng depresyon, anxiety at stress. Base ito sa isang malawakang pag-aaral sa Brazil. Kaya, maging balanse. Magpahinga sa screen, magbasa, makipagkwentuhan, magdasal, maging present lagi. Alagaan ang iyong isipan. Kung anong itinatanim sa isipan mo, yun ang lalago.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. emphasized the need for greater vigilance and stronger defenses against digital scams and threats posed by artificial intelligence or AI as he opened the Manila Tech Summit 2025 at Shangri-La The Fort in Taguig City. While highlighting the promise of a truly digital Philippines, the president warned that rapid technological advancement brings significant risks, particularly with AI-driven fraud, digital currencies, and cross-border crime. He also expressed concern over AI-related challenges, including job displacement and loss of privacy. Additionally, Marcos Jr. addressed concerns over online gambling, announcing initial efforts such as suspending in-app gambling access in mobile payment apps and websites to protect vulnerable users and maintain financial system integrity. Now, in its 5th year, the Manila Tech Summit 2025 brings together over 1,300 delegates representing more than 300 organizations, united under the theme, Forging a New Global Order. Recent opportunities redefined. The 2-day summit runs from the 26th to the 27th of August. From food and supplies to cutting-edge experiments, the latest SpaceX mission is delivering more than just cargo. NASA says this resupply trip could pave the way for the future journey to the moon and Mars. Let's hear more from this report from Faith Agustin.
On Monday, a SpaceX cargo ship arrived at the International Space Station, or ISS. The unmanned Dragon capsule docked at the ISS at around 7:05 in the morning Eastern after a nearly 29-hour chase in orbit. It connected to the station's Harmony module, bringing with it nearly 5,000 pounds of food, supplies, and scientific experiments for the astronauts aboard. This marks SpaceX's 33rd resupply mission for NASA under the Commercial Resupply Service Program, a mission that began with the Falcon 9 launch early Sunday. According to Acting NASA Administrator Sean Duffy, the mission will test new technologies such as 3D printing of metal parts and bioprinting of tissue in microgravity, innovations that could help support future lunar and even Mars expeditions. The Dragon capsule will also help maintain the ISS's altitude through engine burns, a task once carried out mainly by Russian cargo ships. The CRS-33 mission is expected to wrap up in December when the Dragon returns to Earth carrying samples and other scientific equipment. Faye Agustin, your citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
The United Arab Emirates President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan met with Angolan President João Manuel Gonçalves Lourenço in Luanda on Monday for bilateral talks. At the presidential palace, the two leaders were gathered with a guard of honors as the national anthems of both countries were played. According to the Emirates news agency, discussions focus on strengthening relations and expanding cooperation to support development in both nations. Sheikh Mohammed expressed confidence that Angola's current leadership of the African Union would advance peace and harmony on the continent, while reaffirming the UAE's strategic approach to building partnerships across Africa. President Lourenço welcomed the visit and said the agreements and memoranda signed during the trip would enhance cooperation in renewable energy, logistics, and agriculture, boosting Angola's economy and creating jobs for young people. Sheikh Mohammed arrived in Luanda earlier in the day, accompanied by senior diplomats and ministers for his state visit. And for our latest in sports, Newcastle United suffered a dramatic defeat to Liverpool as the Isak Saga drags on, while France David's Gaudu sprinted to stage 3 victory at the Vuelta a España with Jonas Vingegaard keeping the overall lead. Here's Carlo de la Peña for our sports news.
Newcastle United suffered a 3-2 defeat to Liverpool at St. James Park after Rio Numoha struck deep into stoppage time. The Magpies, reduced to 10 men and hit by injuries, fought back from 2 goals down, with Bruno Guimaraes and William Osula scoring to level the match. Absent once again was star striker Alexander Isak, as Liverpool's £110 million bid remains unresolved. With the transfer window closing to September 1, Newcastle faced mounting pressure to settle his future while seeking reinforcements up front. Meanwhile, David Gaudu powered to victory on stage 3 of the Vuelta a España, winning the uphill sprint finish ahead of Denmark's Mads Pedersen and race leader Jonas Vingegaard. It was the Frenchman's 3rd career stage win at the Vuelta and his first since 2020. Gaudu's late burst moved him up to 2nd overall, 14 seconds behind Jonas Vingegaard, who retained the red jersey. Pedersen had been the pre-race favorite for the 134.6-kilometer stage from San Maurizio Canavesi to Ceres, but Gaudu's perfectly timed inside line secured the win. Great Britain's Tom Pidcock finished 23rd and stays 5th in the general classification. Meanwhile, Vingegaard's team revealed several of their bikes were stolen overnight in Italy, with police now investigating. Reporting for Newsline World, this is Carlo de la Peña, bringing you the latest sports news.
Movie sequels and new music hits Brittany Snow teases Pitch Perfect 4, while Sabrina Carpenter readies her new album. Let's find out the latest in this showbiz news with Justin Nazario.
Are you also a fan of the hugely popular musical comedy film Pitch Perfect? Well, Brittany Snow just got fans excited after revealing that there's a possibility of a Pitch Perfect 4. The actress shared that she would love to reprise her role as Chloe in the 4th installment. Snow starred in all 3 previous films, the original Pitch Perfect in 2012, followed by the 2015 and 2017 sequels. Loving the role, she didn't hesitate to say yes when asked if she would return for a 4th movie. But are some of her co-stars also open to a reunion? Well, 40-year-old Anna Kendrick said she's definitely down to do Pitch Perfect 4. Of course, she'd love to have Rebel Wilson back too, believing that Fat Amy could bring a big impact if the movie pushes through. A few months ago, Rebel also shared that Universal Studios is currently developing some scripts. The confession sparked excitement among fans of the movie, fueling anticipation for the long-awaited sequel. And from Pitch Perfect's a cappella group Harmonies, Sabrina Carpenter is now ready to drop her latest album, Man's Best Friend. The album drops on August 29, following her June 11 Instagram announcement, made just days after she released the single Man Child with its music video. The album will feature 12 tracks including Man Child, Tears, My Man on Willpower, Sugar Talking, We Almost Broke Up Again Last Night, Nobody's Son, Never Getting Laid, When Did You Get Hot, Go Go Juice, Don't Worry I'll Make You Worry, House Tour, and Goodbye. For now, her short and sweet tour continues until November, which is why her fandom, the Carpenters, are eagerly anticipating her new songs and upcoming performances. Sabrina won 2 of her latest Grammy Awards on the 2nd of February for her song Espresso and her album Short and Sweet. Then, on the 21st of June, she continued her winning streak at the 2025 Kids' Choice Awards, where she won Favorite Female Breakout Artist, Favorite Album for Short and Sweet, and Favorite Song for Tease. This is Justin Azario, your citizen correspondent, bringing you the latest show buzz.
And before we end, may be inspired with the words of the sun. Guard your mind, soul, and heart, that they will remain upright in the sight of the Lord. And that's all for this edition of Newsline World. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, I am Franco Baranda. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.